रेणु भजन अनुकूला शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन अनुकूला भक्त सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेमलती करमूला परम सिद्धि प्रेमलती करमूला माधवती थी भक्ति जननी जतने पालन कोरी जतने पालन कृष्ण बसती बसती बोली परम आदर बोरी गौर आमार जे सब स्थाने करोल भ्रमण रंगे जे सब स्थाने करोल भ्रमण रंगे से सब स्थान हेरिबो आमी प्रणयी भक्त संगे से सब स्थान हेरिबो आमी प्रणयी भक्त संगे मृदंग वाद्य शुनिते मन अवसर सदा जाचे मृदंग वाद्य शुनिते मन अवसर सदा जाचे गौर विहिता कीर्तन शुनि आनंद हृदय नाचे कीर्तन आनंद हृदय जुगल मूर्ति देखिया मोरा परम आनंद होया प्रसाद सेवा करिते होया सकल प्रपंच जाया सकल प्रपंच छाया जे दिन गृह भजन देखी गृह ते गोलक भाया चरण सिधु देखिया गंगा सुख न सीमा पाया तुलसी देखी झुराय प्राण माधव तोषणी जानी माधव तोषणी जानी गौर प्रिया शाक सेवने जीवन सार्थक माने भक्ति विनोद कृष्ण भजने अनुकूल पाय जाहा प्रतिदिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ताहा। प्रतिदिवसे परम सुखे स्वीकार करो ताहा। शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन अनुकूला। शुद्ध भक्त चरण रेणु भजन अनुकूला। भक्त सेवा परम सिद्धि प्रेमलती करमूला। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवार धारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवार धारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरवनचारी। हरे कृष्णा, हरे कृष्णा, कृष्णा कृष्णा, हरे हरे, हरे रामा, हरे रामा, रामा रामा, हरे हरे. जय राधा मदन मोहन, राधा मदन मोहन राधे. जय जगन्नाथ जगन्नाथ, बलदेव जय सुभद्रा. Baladeva Jaya Jaya Gauranitai 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 Shri Shri Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Srila Gurudev श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्री मसीह डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरण रविंद्र भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की ISKCON फाउंडर आचार्य BBT फाउंडर आचार्य सेवियर ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्री मसीह डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Adnyan Timirandasya Jnananjana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Bhesha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Bhagwan ki Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mai ki Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So today is Ekadashi, आज Ekadashi है, and on this auspicious occasion of Ekadashi we will be reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam in the glorification of Srila Prabhupada. So I seek blessings of Srila Prabhupada, Anandmay Prabhuji, all the senior Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavas assembled here, so that we can dive into this nectarian ocean of Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam. This is from Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam, volume 4, entitled In Every Town and Village Around the World from 1968 to 1971. And we are in the first chapter entitled Unlimited Opportunity, Limited Time. So the continuation goes like this. This is from Los Angeles, October 1968. Srila Prabhupada returned to find the devotees living and worshipping in an exciting location on Hollywood Boulevard. A large Sankirtan party organized by his disciple Tamal Krishna would chant Hare Krishna on the streets all day and sell back to Godhead magazines in larger quantities than ever before, as many as 200 magazines a day, with a collection of over $100. Then one day, shortly after Prabhupada's arrival, the landlord evicted the devotees from their place on Hollywood Boulevard. With no temple, the devotees moved to scattered locations throughout the city. As many evenings as possible, however, they would gather in someone's garage, lent to them for the evening, and Srila Prabhupada would chant Hare Krishna with them and lecture. Then Prabhupada rented a former Christian church on La Cienega Boulevard. He introduced a more regulated deity worship and an increased Sunday love feast. Each week would bring a new special planned festival with a big feast and hundreds of guests. These new programs in Los Angeles encouraged Prabhupada, and he wanted to see them introduced in ISKCON centers throughout the world. So here we can see that apparently there was some problem, and that landlord, he evicted the people. But that gave another opportunity, that they moved to the church. So Krishna will do the best for the devotees. Srila Prabhupada was planning to go to England, but first he wanted to visit his farm project in West Virginia. And he had also been promising the devotees in San Francisco he would attend the Rath Yatra festival in July. This traveling to establish and expand his ISKCON was alone enough to keep him busy. Yet he was also always meditating on his work of translating and commenting on Vedic literatures. In Los Angeles, during December, Srila Prabhupada had begun The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The Nectar of Devotion would be a handbook for his disciples, elaborately explaining the science and practice of Bhakti Yoga. Simultaneous with the Nectar of Devotion, he had also begun Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a summary study of Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto. Visiting the temple only on Sundays, he had spent most of his time at his small rented house on the outskirts of Beverly Hills, where he worked intensely on his two major literary projects. Prabhupada's most ambitious literary undertaking, the completion of Srimad Bhagavatam, was to be no less than 60 volumes. He had begun in India in 1959, and all along he had been aware that he was attempting a gigantic task. At an advanced age, now Krishna was giving him opportunities both for writing Vedic literatures and for traveling, and he was working at an amazing pace. The force driving Prabhupada was the desire of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. As for how much time he had remaining to execute his mission, that was in Krishna's hand. Everything was up to Krishna. If Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. And if Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you. Yet, although Prabhupada was always in transcendental consciousness, beyond the effects of old age, he was aware that he did not have many more years left. All along, he had the vision of a spiritual movement for all nations and cultures, and to establish this, he was racing against time. Srila Prabhupada's mood of urgency was the natural mood of a Vaishnava preacher, an ambition to engage everyone in loving service to Krishna. Without Krishna consciousness, the bewildered, conditioned souls of Kali Yuga were all heading for the horrible consequences of their sinful lives. Prabhupada's sense of urgency, therefore, was an expression of his compassion. He wanted to save the gross materialists who were blind to the existence of soul. If they wasted their human life, they would suffer millions of years before getting another chance to awaken their Krishna consciousness and go back to Godhead. The heart attack Prabhupada had endured in 1967 had accelerated his mood of urgency. Although before the heart attack he had often worked like a young man and played the drum for hours, now Krishna's warning was clear. The heart attack was to have been the time of his death. Prabhupada had said, but because his disciples had prayed, our master has not finished his work. Please protect him. Krishna had spared him. Similarly, on the boat to America in 1965, his heart had almost failed. But then also Krishna had saved his life. The scope of Prabhupada's work was enormous. Even with many years and good health, he could never finish. Prabhupada saw that in future generations, many people would come forward to help. And thus, by the combined effort, the Krishna consciousness movement would continue to check the forces of Kali Yuga and save the entire world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted this, and Prabhupada knew that it must come to pass. But the task of erecting the framework for this universal effort rested on Prabhupada alone. And he worked tirelessly, knowing that unless he establishes a complete foundation to entire mission, might later collapse. Beginning with Prabhupada's first success in New York City in 1966, Krishna had shown unlimited opportunities for spreading Krishna consciousness. But how much time was there? Only Krishna could say. It was up to him. Prabhupada remained ever mindful of the vast scope of his mission and the ever narrowing span of time he had in which to complete it. I am an old man, he often told his disciples. I could pass away at any moment. So in this narration we can see that how Prabhupada was very having that compassion, lot of compassion, and he was in urgent mood to spread this Krishna consciousness, which was, and it was told that it is because of the desire of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarada Thakur. That was the driving force for him. Like Guru Mukha Padmata, Chittete Koriya. So that was the driving force of him. And Prabhupada writes that lot of opportunity was there, but how much time was left? Very less. Prabhupada is telling that I could have passed away at any way. And in between also Prabhupada, Swarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj is telling that Prabhupada is telling Krishna had saved me. Krishna had given me the time. Continuation ahead. Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj, not Swarup Damodar, Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada would receive several letters a week from the devotees in London. It was now December 1968. The devotees had been in London 4 months and still they had no temple. Now this was, Los Angeles was going on. Now camera is moving to London. What is happening there? Nor even a place where they could live and worship together. Mostly they had been visiting Hindu families, holding kirtan and sharing prasadam. Srila Prabhupada had encouraged this, but after hearing a few reports, he decided the program was stagnant. The devotees should not expect much from the Hindus, he said. They have become hodgepodge due to so many years of subjugation by foreigners and have lost their own culture. I am concerned to preach this gospel amongst the Europeans and Americans. The devotees were jolted, but they knew Prabhupada was right. Determined to change their tactics, they immediately began lecturing at colleges and universities and chanting in the streets. They were preaching to the British and it felt right. When they wrote to Prabhupada that although they had accomplished little, they were planting seeds. Prabhupada replied, regarding your analogy of sowing Krishna conscious seeds, I may inform you that there is a Bengali proverb, Sabure me phale. This means that fruits like chestnuts and pomegranates or similar other valuable fruits and nuts take some time to fructify. So, any good thing comes into our possession after hard struggle and endeavor. So, Krishna consciousness is the greatest of all good fruits. We must therefore have necessary endurance and enthusiasm to get the result. We shall never be disappointed when things are presented in reversed order. Anyway, your honest labor is now coming to be fructified. Always depend upon Krishna and go on working with enthusiasm, patience, and conviction. Through the spring and summer of 1969, Prabhupada continued touring his American ISKCON centers. From Los Angeles, he had sent Gaur Sundar and Govindadasi, a young married couple, to Hawaii. And on their invitation that he come during the mango season, he joined them. But when he got there in March, he found that it was not mango season and that his disciples had accomplished little. They had taken jobs and were working full time just to support themselves. So, Los Angeles, London, Hawaii, now New York. New York City, April 9, 1969. Prabhupada traveled to New York City, the birthplace of his Krishna Consciousness Society, where his movement had been growing for nearly 3 years. Although the center was established and his books were being distributed, he still had to visit to strengthen the devotees. His presence gave them determination and courage. For 7 months, they had carried on without his personal touch. But his visit, when he would sit in his room and reciprocate warmly with them, were vital. Nothing could equal these intimate meetings. Many devotees, new and old, crowded into Prabhupada's apartment at 22nd Avenue. There was one reporter for the Honolulu Advertiser. Prabhupada said, he was putting questions to me and then he wrote an article. The Swami is a small man, but he is delivering a great message. That is true. I am small, but the message, that is not small. That is humility of Srila Prabhupada. Brahmananda showed Prabhupada a globe with markers representing ISKCON centers. Now there is one in North Carolina, Brahmananda said. Then it becomes 15, Prabhupada asked. He was smiling and looking directly from one devotee to another. I want each one of you to go and start a center. What is the difficulty? Take one mridanga, then another person will come and join you. He will take kartals. When I came here, Brahmananda and Achyutananda were dancing. And after chanting, hundreds of men will come to your storefront and enjoy chanting and dancing. Then Rukmini Mataji asked, the girls also? There is no harm, Prabhupada said. Krishna does not make distinction. Female dress or male dress. I mean to say the female body is weaker, but spiritually no body does not, but spiritually the body does not matter. In the absence of Lord Nityananda, his wife Janvi Devi was preaching. Janvi is written. Janvi Devi was preaching. First you must understand the philosophy. You must be prepared to answer questions. Krishna will give your intelligence. Krishna will give you intelligence. Just like I was not prepared to answer all these questions, but Krishna gives intelligence. After 8 days in his New York City home, Prabhupada went to Buffalo. At State University of New York at Buffalo, Rupanuga was teaching an accredited course in Krishna Yoga with some 60 students enrolled, regularly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra on beads. Prabhupada stayed for a few days, lecturing and initiating disciples. Then he went to Boston for more initiations and several marriages. Now, Columbus, Ohio. May 9th, 1969. The devotees had arranged for Prabhupada and Allen Ginsberg to chant on stage at Ohio State University. Allen had been a friend of Krishna consciousness movement from its first days on the Lower East Side. Shortly after Prabhupada's arrival in Columbus, he stopped by Prabhupada's house and discussed philosophy with Prabhupada for several hours. Allen was friendly with Prabhupada, as always, but he doubted whether Krishna consciousness could become popular in America. The need, he said, is for a large, single, unifying religious movement in America. So here is Krishna, Prabhupada replied, all attractive. Now you can say, why shall I accept Krishna? But since you asked for a unifying element, then I say, here is Krishna. Now you can analyze, why should I accept Krishna? And I shall reply, why you shall not? Whatever you want or expect from the Supreme or unifying, everything is there in Krishna. If Prabhupada wanted his movement popularized, Allen suggested he should consider omitting many of the sectarian Hindu aspects, such as the dress, the food, the Sanskrit. Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada replied, was not sectarian or Hindu. Lord Chaitanya had said that a person could chant any name of God, but one must chant. As for the food, Prabhupada explained that any food was acceptable as long as it was purely vegetarian. And dress, there was no stricture at Americans wear robes and shave their heads. The Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada added, was a natural sound, not foreign. Allen objected. The Hare Krishna mantra sounded foreign. Perhaps they should think of an alternative, more American mantra. This is going on, Prabhupada replied. Some people are inclined to one thing and some to others, and it will go on until the end of creation. But our position is that we are searching after the center, and here is the center. At Ohio State's Hitchcock Hall, 1,000 students occupied the seats, and 1,000 more crowded the aisles and stage. So here in the previous narration, Prabhupada was making sure that there should be no deviation. Whatever is spiritual master is given, that only should go ahead. No addition, no subtraction. No changing of mantra, no changing of any philosophy or anything. So going ahead. The program began with Kirtan led by Allen Ginsberg. Allen then introduced Prabhupada and Prabhupada lectured. When Prabhupada began the second and final Kirtan of the evening, the students responded wildly. Those seated stood and danced, some jumping on their seats, and those in aisles and on the stage also joined in. Amid the thunderous Kirtan of nearly 2,000 voices, Prabhupada began to dance, jumping up and down on the speaker's dais, his hands raising high. He threw flowers from his garland, and the students scrambled for them. The wildly ecstatic Kirtan continued for almost an hour, and then Prabhupada brought it to close. Afterward, hundreds of students crowded close around Prabhupada, asking him questions. Many students continued to chant as they left the hall, and some left crying from the new sensation of spiritual happiness. The next day, the ecstatic night of chanting at Hitchcock Hall was the talk of the campus. Prabhupada was pleased with the evening, and he described the event in letter to devotees in Los Angeles. Yesterday, at Ohio State University, we had a tremendous meeting, and nearly 2,000 students were dancing, clapping, and chanting along with us. So it is clear that the student community has a nice potential for accepting this philosophy. Now camera is moving to New Vrindavan. So Prabhupada is telling here that student community has a great potential to accept this philosophy. From that time, Prabhupada also going into different universities and lecturing and making them dance. Even Americans are accepting. New Vrindavan, May 21st, 1969. Accompanied by Kirtanananda Swami and Haigriva, Prabhupada then traveled from Columbus to New Vrindavan Farm Project in hills of West Virginia. When their car got stuck in the neighbor's garden near the entrance to the property, Prabhupada decided to walk the final 2 miles along the muddy access road that led to the farm. The road soon ended, however, and Prabhupada and his two guides picked up the footpath, entering the dense forest. The mid-May trees were still coming into foliage, and sunlight broke through the branches to a carpet of brilliant purple phlox. Prabhupada walked quickly ahead of Kirtan Swami and Haigriva, who hurried to keep up. A winding creek repeatedly crossed the path, and Prabhupada would cross by stepping from stone to stone. The road, he said, would not be difficult to travel by ox cart. The forest was like a jungle, just as he had expected and wanted. For the past year, Prabhupada had corresponded with Kirtan Swami and Haigriva concerning New Vrindavan, and this correspondence had established the direction for Krishna conscious country living. Prabhupada had said he wanted the community based on Vedic ideals. Everyone living simply, keeping cows and working the land. The devotees would have to develop their ideas gradually. It would take time, but even in the beginning, the keynote should be simple living and high thinking, because the community would remain completely aloof from the city. It it would at first appear inconvenient and austere, but life would be peaceful, free from anxieties of the artificial urban society, based on the hard work for sense gratification. And most important, the members of such a community would be serving Krishna and chanting his names. Prabhupada spoke little, making his way along the path as if at his own home. They stopped beside the creek, and Prabhupada sat down on a blanket Kirtan Swami and Hagrid spread for him on the grass. We are stopping we are stopping for Kirtanananda, Prabhupada said. He is tired. Prabhupada and his party drank water from the creek, rested briefly, and then continued. As they rounded the curve in the road, Prabhupada could see a clearing on a ridge ahead. A small frame house and a barn stood at the lower end of the ridge. These two ancient structures, Haigrave explained, were the only buildings on New Vrindavan's 120 acres. As no vehicles travelled here and paths were overrun with high grass, a willow spread its branches close by the old house. The settlement was the picture of undisturbed primitive life. Prabhupada liked the simple life at New Vrindavan, and whatever simple things the devotees offered him, he accepted with satisfaction. They served him freshly ground wheat cereals cooked in milk, and he said it was wonderful. When he saw the kitchen's dirt floor covered with cow dung, he approved, saying it was just like in an Indian village. Prabhupada also liked his room in the attic directly above the temple room. He brought out the small Radha Krishna deities he had been traveling with for the last month and a half, and had his servant Devananda improvise an altar on the small table to one side of room, arranging his two trunks at the desk and placing a picture of his spiritual master on one of the trunks. Prabhupada immediately resumed his usual schedule. He would take his late morning massage sitting outside and then bathe with the warm water in an improvised outdoor shower stall. Kirtan Swami prepared Prabhupada's usual lunch of dal, rice, and chapatis, plus some local porkweed. The previous summer, Kirtan Swami and Haigreva had picked and canned blackberries, which they now served Prabhupada as blackberry chutney. The chapatis were from freshly milled whole wheat, and everything was cooked over a wood fire. The best fuel for cooking, Prabhupada said, was cow dung. Wood was second, gas was third, and electricity last. Prabhupada spent so much of day out of doors under the persimmon tree about 100 feet from the house. There he would sit and read at low table one of the men had built. Often he would look up from his reading and gaze across the deep valley to the distant ridge where the forest met the sky. In the late afternoon, devotees would gather under the persimmon tree with Prabhupada sitting and walking with him until sitting and talking with him until after sunset. They saw Prabhupada's living with them as a practical demonstration of New Vrindavan's importance. If he, the greatest devotee, could be satisfied living simply and chanting Hare Krishna in this backwoods setting, then they should follow his examples. Comparing New Vrindavan to the Vrindavan in India, Prabhupada said that New Vrindavan was in some ways better, since Vrindavan, India, was now congested with worldly men. 500 years ago, the Goswami followers of Lord Chaitanya had excavated the sites of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and only pure devotees had lived there. But in the recent years, Vrindavan had become a place of materialists and impersonalists. New Vrindavan, however, should admit only the spiritually inclined. In Vedic society, Prabhupada said everyone had been satisfied to live like this, in a small village beside a river. Factories were unnecessary. Prabhupada wanted this Vedic way of life for the entire world, and New Vrindavan could serve as a model for the benefit of the masses. So we'll conclude here for today. Here in the last part, we read that how Srila Prabhupada was giving importance to the New Vrindavan farm community and how he himself was satisfied with the simple things. So Prabhupada always told that brahmacharis should stay in a city, preach, and send the people to the farm communities. So they can go to farm communities and stay there, and brahmacharis can stay in a city and preach and make devotees here and send them back to the villages. So thank you very much. Prabhuji, would you like to add something? Prabhuji. So thank you very much. We'll conclude here for today. Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj ki jai.